Being a dad is hard. It's high stakes. It takes a toll on our self-worth, mental health, and can be lonely. But why would we ever want to do something so important in isolation? Legacy Makers, a conversation for dads, is quite simply two normal dads having conversations about, you guessed it, being a dad. The highs, the lows, and the learnings along the way. We are four dads. We want to remedy the deficiency we see in community for dads, and we want to ruthlessly encourage dads on their journey to build lasting legacy for the faces they love the most. Hey, Legacy Maker fam. This is Eric. It is so great to be with you all. I hope everybody is off to a wonderful start to 2025. In this latest episode of the podcast, you hear Kevin and myself speaking at a live event at our church, also called Legacy Makers, where we gathered with a large group of dads that are trying to continue to just get better and make an impact. And so enjoy this conversation between Kevin and I, and look for some new episodes of Legacy Makers, a conversation for dads, to post later in the month. Thanks. All right, Kev. I think we every once in a while, I think this is the biggest audience we've ever had for our podcast.
Yeah, this is right. It's a good crew here.
We actually do have a podcast that Kevin and I do, and like 5 or 6 people listen, so this feels really big for us. I feel like we're here for a reason. No.
Is it okay that I have water that's not Coca-Cola up here?
Yeah, it says a lot about your brand, that's for sure.
Hey, I really do appreciate this guy. Will you guys thank Eric for what he's done with helping bring this community together here? Most of the time I appreciate him. Let me tell you, yesterday morning I did not appreciate Eric. So my wife said that we needed to get family pictures for our Christmas card this year. Anybody done this yet? Anybody had a good experience? Okay, so this was her idea, Eric, that we would do it before church because our kids would already be dressed for church. It was somebody's groaning up here. It was a bad idea. We get there, I yelled at my kids multiple times during this whole interaction. It's not good. We get to the very end, and the photographer, who will remain nameless, is like, this is right after I'm yelling at my kids. She's like, don't you do that Legacy Makers thing for dads? Like, man, this is not good. So I was mad at Eric for that. I think we're going to talk about inspiration as a dad tonight, which is important because sometimes it's tough to stay inspired.
Yeah, no, I think especially the seasons most of us are in right now, you've got to find sources of inspiration to get through, right? Some days are much easier than others. The days that you have to do the family pictures, I think that's like a universal. Any dad that has had a good experience doing a family picture is not being honest at all, because those are horrible. And then the funny thing about that is like the picture that we're all going to see for your Christmas card.
Oh, when I post it, it's going to look like we are all...
And you're going to say I'm so thankful for these angelic faces like these, and the beautiful life that we live together. And I'm going to know, and we're all going to know that you were like borderline almost... You're probably verbally abusing your children right before that picture, right?
This is off to a great start.
It's good. No, but inspiration. So what I'd love is, you and I have a lot of professional conversations too about work. You've talked about inspiration and actually written about inspiration more from a corporate business perspective. But I think if you think about what's really important from an inspiration perspective as you show up to work, there's a lot of tie-ins from a standpoint of being a dad.
Yeah, one of the things that there are times, let's go work first. At work, there are times I feel inspired, which some guys are like, I was at this banking conference, and anybody in banking in here? And the guy was like, man, nobody is inspired in banking. I'm like, okay. And I was like, let's use the word engagement. Like, there are times I'm engaged at work, and there are times I'm not. Could we figure out what it takes when you are inspired to reverse engineer it, to go get it? And I think the same is true for being a dad. There are times where it's feeling really good. And so what I found in the research is it really takes 3 things for us to be inspired. So why don't we take them? I'll go ahead and give you all 3, and then let's unpack them. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't say no. Number 1, we've got to have purpose. We have to remember why we're doing this. So there's got to be a purpose. The second thing is partners. And we'll dive into what that looks like, but it's not just other people. It's got to be the right kind of partner. And then the third thing is problems. We think that the problems are things that are discouraging, but the truth is we were created to do hard things, and when we do harder things, if it's in line with our purpose, it actually helps us be more inspired.
Yeah. So tying to David, I think really, quickly, purpose was all throughout the story of David. For him to go, he didn't just go look and say, oh, there's Goliath, I'm going to go, have a wrestling match, right? There was purpose behind the why behind that. And then because of his actions, inspired an entire army to go do what they needed to do. But I think as you think about the life of David, purpose was there. So I think it checks the box based on your 3 Ps to start there.
Yeah, David, if you remember when he went out to fight Goliath, he says, this guy defiles the living God. Or he basically says, I'm going to fight him, not because he's just some big guy, not because the reward is great, but because it is in line with my purpose. And I think every day when we get up and we try to be the dad that we need to be, we've got to keep in mind that bigger purpose. Like when we're having the tough interaction with our kids, when we're frustrated with our wives, when any of that's going on, you got to have that. And I love this line we talked about before, this idea that when your purpose is clear, the mundane becomes meaningful. And when you have a clear purpose, first of all, a lot of being a dad is mundane. But when you have a clear purpose, all of those things, they begin to make sense because they tie into the overall goal of the dad you want to be.
Yeah, to your point, the mundane looks very different at different stages of life. Sometimes the mundane as your kids get older is having a tough conversation or, and we've all been in those moments where it's much easier to go to bed. It's much easier to say, I'll deal with that later. But as you think about being clear on what the mission is or the purpose is, that mundane activity becomes very meaningful because it's a means to get to something further down the line. And, one of the things we've said, and I've probably said it from up here, is this kind of notion that date them, or marry the mission, date the methods. So same thing. Like if your mission is purpose-driven, it's my legacy, you also have to be agile enough in different seasons of life, or you have multiple kids that might be different. You've got to be comfortable. The method to get to that mission may be different, but stay locked in on that purpose. Stay locked in on what the meaningful thing is that you're going after.
Yeah, any guys in here that were in Eric's basement when he first started this men's Bible study in his basement? Any guys in here for those? I see several of you guys. Look at this crew right here. I remember we watched a video from this guy named Mark Batterson. And he had like the most amazing family mission statement. And I don't have a cool mission statement like him, and they had like 14 family values, all these kind of things. But what stuck with me was he had so crystallized in his mind what his goal as a dad was. So when all of the other crap happened, he stayed focused on what's the bigger ultimate goal. And I think that is key for us.
Yeah, and it actually intimidated us. We were like, oh, that sounds good. And we were like, all right, that's the homework for this week or this month and next month. And we all came back. We're like, so who did that? And everyone was like, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. So it doesn't have to be elaborate. It could be as simple as we're going to love people. We're going to love whatever it is. But it also allows you to have a North Star for your family and for yourself to go back to and tie to. And that's super
important. You guys have
important.
you actually have family values.
Yeah, yes, we're working on to like more formally. It's more like teach like examples, right? So in scripture, we talk a lot about being mat carriers, and we'll point into that story in Luke of the 4 friends, or working with Chick-fil-A for so many years. Their big they call it second mile service. I love the Matthew 5:4-1 going the second mile. So I think there's really easy ways to tie principles of what you want to be known for as a family. And then you don't have to, I love Mike Lynch, one of the most amazing men. You would think like this guy is like, oh, I bet he's got 2 amazing kids. They're grown now, and they probably had church he's like, we didn't talk about church at the house, right? But you just live it. You got to anchor to something that they can understand, and it's approachable.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so purpose, and I would just challenge everybody in here, and I'm not telling you we get this right a lot, but if you haven't really thought about what you want it to be like when your kids are out of the house, I would really focus on that purpose because it's going to help you get through. Anybody have kids 0 to 5 in here? Raise your hand. Wow. How about 5 to 10-year-old kids? 10 to 15-year-old kids. 15 to 20-year-old kids? Wow. So many different, like at each age, there's different mundane things, but you got to have the purpose. All right, partners.
Yes.
This was a little bit tough because we're not recommending anybody like get new partners right now, right?
We're not. That is not what we're here to talk about. We did not clear that with CA ahead of time. I know that for a fact.
Talk to us about partners.
No, I mean, again, thinking about David, yes, he had a purpose as to why he went and did the act and went to go fight Goliath. But really, when you think about how we're going to talk about partners, it's about doing something for and with people, right? It was a community, it was an army, it was a country that he was representing and trying to fire up. But there was there was purpose behind what he did, and there were people there. It wasn't a selfish act. It wasn't, hey, I'm going to go slay Goliath because I want to be known. Yeah, that's part, but like there was people, there was partners. And I think as we think about inspiration, we're going to talk a little bit about two different types of partners that are super, super important as we think about this journey that we're on. And we'll talk to them about them both, but I think we should start with our spouse. And I'll go ahead and say, not everybody in this room is still married to the person that they're raising kids with. That doesn't absolve you, though, of having a really strong relationship with that person as your partner still. Your kids have to see healthy examples of relationships, especially with their mom. And if it didn't work out with their mom, that does not absolve you of having a very healthy relationship with that person as well as whoever you choose to be with now. But our kids have to see this. They have to see us put our spouse first. That's really hard. I mean, Brittany literally, I almost like to dial it down a little bit, but she'll tell the kids, like, hey, like, daddy's my number one. I'm like, don't tell the girls that. Like, they're going to get upset. But, like, she's very clear, like, no, we're going on a trip or we're going on a date because this is your dad and I's relationship. And so we've got to make sure as we think about staying inspired that we are honoring that relationship with our spouse.
Yeah, and I know it's tough in a lot of seasons to do that. I think if you're going to prioritize the relationship with your partner, you've got to go back to that purpose and say what's going to matter long term. And man, I just have seen a lot of people that are a few years older than me who they were married for 18, 20 years, and then their kids are out of the house, and they had spent all their time focusing on their kids, and when their kids are gone, they didn't have a relationship with each other. And so that piece of partners is big. The second group of partners is the community, which is why we do groups like this, is that you've got to have other people who are in this with you.
Yeah, Mike and I sat on stage here when we were just talking about this in front of the church, and one of the things we talked a lot about was the importance you said the word encouragement, and one of the things that I said to Mike was that I really believe, I mean, we saw the hands raised. You got babies all the way up to, 20-year-old kids, dads represented in this room. I fully believe on this journey, the encouragement that we need, we're going to need it from our spouse, but man, you're going to need it from other guys shoulder to shoulder. And what I said to Mike was community is the currency that we're going to purchase the encouragement that we need as dads. There's things that I need that Brittany can't give me as it relates to encouragement. There's stuff that, I could talk to her about anything. She's my best friend. But, man, sometimes I need to talk to another guy. I started that little group in my basement, honestly, for selfish reasons, but also because I went through a hard season and I felt like I couldn't talk to anybody. And I didn't want that to be the case. Like, we've got to have space like this where we feel like we can be shoulder to shoulder with other guys going through the same things, because nobody in this room has it all together. You just don't.
Let me give one corporate thing, like a business thing that I think really applies here. You talked about Chick-fil-A. One of the great leaders there used to say that great teams do three things. So if you're taking it, three things. They believe the best in each other, they want the best for each other, and they expect the best from each other. So they believe the best in, they want the best for, and they expect the best from. That's what a true partnership is. You believe it, you trust their motives. When your wife doesn't do the thing that, you thought that this bill was going to be paid or this thing was going to be done. It didn't get done. It's like, you got to trust motives. Number 2, you want them to succeed. And then 3, when you believe the best in them and you want the best for, it's much easier to expect the best from them. And I think that's actually the kind of friendships we need. Because sometimes we make this mistake of talking about encouragement like this is all just telling everybody how great they are. But let me tell you, my prayer is for guys in this room is that you're going to have guys that are encouraging and cheering each other on, but when one of us is getting off track, that's why these tables are set up the way they are, because somebody can say, hey man, dude, I don't know if that's right. Like, hey, what's going to matter long term? Like that's a mistake that is going to take you down a path you don't want to go down, and we desperately need that kind of community and those kind of partners.
Yeah, and then I'll wrap and we'll go to the third P. I think one thing I would challenge each of you to also think about, do an inventory of 3 types of relationships in your life, okay? The first is look behind you, and how many people do you have behind you that you're pulling forward? They might be at a spot a little bit behind you, they may be younger, but like how many people are there that you would say, look, like, yeah, I'm not a mentor or whatever, but like, yeah, there's people that I'm pouring into behind me. Look out ahead of you. And how many guys do you have ahead of you in a season of life that you can learn from? They've been there, they've walked in your shoes, you can pick up the phone, you can get to them. And then most importantly is shoulder to shoulder. I'm not talking about guys that are, that are there to go play golf. That's all good, but like, I'm going through something, I need to talk. Like, how many is there? And do an inventory and determine where you need to lean in. Because I think we're going to be successful and have a meaningful life if we have really rich numbers of friends in each of those categories.
It's good. Let's hit the third one. Let's talk about problems. We argued a little bit about this one because I said we need problems to be inspired. And Eric said we need to be inspired so we don't have to deal with as many problems. Probably both a little bit true. You want to hit your... And then let's hit that, and then let's come back to the David tie-in. So talk about your part for a second of when we're inspired.
No, I will say, I think it's both. I really think, I'll let you hit the one about being resilient and all that, since you're so eloquent. But I was saying, listen, I think part of staying inspired to do the right thing and not, go to sleep when you need to have a hard conversation or facing something, it's not necessarily like, oh, I have a problem, so I'm inspired. It's like, if I don't do these things and then let the compounded consistency roll about doing the same thing and the right thing over and over, I'm going to have a problem. I'm going to have a conversation with my 11-year-old son, who's 11 today, at 16. Not today, but like in this moment. I'm not.
It's like you're missing your kid's birthday. I don't know if it's being a great dad here.
He's 11. I don't want to have a conversation at 16 if he did something stupid. Yeah. But that's on me because so being inspired to me sometimes, like, look, I have my mind on the future and what I can visualize for what success looks like for my kids and my family. So part of the inspiration that I have is like when I'm tired or I don't want to deal with it, it's like, again, look out into the future and ensure you're reverse engineering how you want to behave to make sure that occurs.
One of the things I think you do really well is when your kids look up and see you, they see you working hard and doing things. And I know that looks different for how that shows up is different for a lot of people, but can you just talk, you hit on this in a couple of podcasts, but how do you think about the importance of your kids seeing you tackle problems, go after big things, and being inspiring to them?
I fundamentally believe we're here for impact. And impact isn't a singular, like in this area of my life. I think God needs us to be impactful. And part of being impactful is to go attack things and to push yourself. I think our kids need to see their dad strive. I could spend every waking moment with my children until they go to college, every second. And when they go to college, I'm still going to wish I had more time with them. It just is what it is. So it may be rationalizing some of the travel, like I'm headed to the airport after this. Like I'm gone a lot, but like I'm very thoughtful about explaining what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And then I've got to live that out when I'm with them and make sure when I'm with them they know that, yeah, Dad does it, but like he's all mine in this moment. And yes, I wish I wasn't gone as much, but I would say at least right now I try to make sure my kids would say that my dad's around way more than I am because of the intentionality that I put there. But I fundamentally believe our kids need to see us go after big things and to strive.
Let's tie back to David for a second here, because I know we've been talking a lot about the earlier area of David's life. And if you guys maybe grew up in church, you may have heard this part before, but I feel like I had missed some of it. We think a lot about David and Goliath and then King David and all these kind of things, but there was this point in David's life where everything had kind of gone wrong. He had slept with somebody he wasn't supposed to be sleeping with, and then he gets her husband killed. I mean, this is a guy that, like, some of the things kind of went off the rails, and at one point, his own men in his army wanted to kill him. And there's this interesting scripture, and I want to make sure I get it right here. This is just, you guys can write it down and go look at it later, because it's going to be really important. 1 Samuel chapter 30 and verse 8. When everything looked like it was falling apart in David's life, it says this right here. But David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. So when David didn't have a wife to encourage him, when his friends didn't encourage him, when his men in his army didn't encourage him, David encouraged himself. And man, I think there's a time where when we're going through problems and challenges, I hope we can focus on the purpose, and we've got the partners, but there are some times where we've got to man up and encourage ourselves. And I love that it says, in the Lord his God. So when there was nobody else to turn to, he turned to God, and that was his source of encouragement. What's your take on that with these guys tonight?
Yeah, another, for any, I wanted to do a show of hands. Everyone in this room has gone through a tough season at some point in their life, and will continue to go through tough seasons. One thought, and it's a little bit tough to do and execute, and it's probably a little hyperbole, but I try to remind myself that whole concept of remind yourself in the dark what you know to be true in the light, right? And so first and foremost, when we get in those ruts, just remember what we know to be true in the light, number one. The second thing I would encourage you guys to think about, man, I would push you to have your prayer life mirror what your prayer life would be when you're in a storm. Listen, man, the couple of moments I was at my worst, I mean, it was hours of the day I was praying. I'd have to get out of meetings and walk to a room and pray. I haven't done that in a long time. So I push myself to think about making sure my relationship and time with God and my prayer life mirrors what it would be if I was in a storm, because, man, these are just deposits that you're making. So when you do walk through a tough time, you're ready to roll.
I got a couple thoughts, and then I'll let you close it out. When we think about inspiration, I mean, I shared, I'm yelling at my kids yesterday. Not proud of that, because I want the picture to turn out well. We talked about in our last podcast, Eric and I talked about things you've taught your kids that you ended up regretting. Has anybody done any of that stuff? Yeah. I mean, mine was, does anybody remember the movie, was it Ace Ventura, where he did Lahu Sahur? So now my kids walk around calling people losers. It's really good. What was yours with Benny?
Yeah, it was World Wrestling, WWE. There's a pretty aggressive character there that does a lot of throat slashing, and Benny may or may not have bumped into somebody on the flag football field. Kid fell down, and Benny's not my best athlete, but stands over him and just kind of hammers the throat slash. And I'm like, and all of a sudden Brittany's not even there to touch me or hit me, but I could just feel her hitting me with her gaze. But that was bad.
So I say that but it doesn't mean we always get it right, and I know all you guys aren't going to get it right all the time, but we need to stay inspired because our kids are worth it. And that doesn't mean we're going to be perfect as dads, but this quote, we probably said it 10 times on the podcast. I've heard Mike Lynch say it here tons of times. And Mike Lynch says, I've never met a bad dad who's trying to be great. And I think it's about staying inspired and trying to do the right things. And that's in the right communities. It's staying clear on your purpose, and it's tackling those problems. And I think when we do that, man, we're not going to always get it right, but I think we're leagues ahead of so many other people.
Yeah, and I'll close with this. It was well said. Inspiration is so important because these are not short-term sprints that we're talking about, guys. I mean, even if your kids are in their teens, like, you got a long way to show up consistently. We're all one decision away from a very different life. We're all one moment with our children that could be the moment they point to and say, that really sucked, and I remember that forever, right? Like, we have to be inspired, because you don't get to choose the moments that your kids are going to say, that was the greatest thing, and my dad did this, that. We've talked about that on the podcast. I mean, you have got to show up consistently. You got to start with the purpose in mind and do your very best, and give yourself grace, but do your best to show up consistently, and that takes inspiration. So, enjoyed it. Well done. It was good. That was a lot of prep for this, so I'm glad it went well. But thank you guys. Well, there's some QR code, there's some table conversation. You got about 20, 30 minutes-ish at the tables, but appreciate you guys.
Thanks for listening to Legacy Makers with Kevin Scott and Eric Blumenthal. Make sure you download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Cast is a production of BG Ad Group. Darren is reserved.